Preparing live stream. You all right, sausage? Yeah. Let me pop it on mute for a second. Apologies for the interruption there. We had a child coming in asking to do his homework. So thank you very much for joining us, YouTube. We are going to record our podcast for the day. We are talking about the Canadian Grand Prix. Hopefully, you enjoyed it. So, this will be the warts and all recording where we make mistakes, maybe stumble over our words, and those all get cut out for the streaming service when we cut it together this evening. So, thank you for joining us. If you've got any questions at any point, by all means, pop them into the comments and we'll try and touch on them as and when they do come up. But for now, hope you enjoy it. This is the Everything F1 podcast for the Canadian Grand Prix. Hello and welcome to the Everything F1 Grand Prix. Everything F1 Grand Prix. There you go. There's the first mistake. Hello and welcome to the Everything F1 podcast with me, James Tiller, and alongside me from the Everything F1 team, we've got Coops. Hey, Coops, how are you?
Oh, I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. Did you enjoy the weekend in Canada?
I was all right, yeah. I
You
mean,
enjoyed the race?
the race was okay. It was a bit of excitement at the start, and then it kind of tailed off a bit, and then we had a wee bit of talking points near the end.
Mm.
But yeah, it was all right. I mean, not the most exciting Canadian Grand Prix we've ever watched in our lives, but yeah.
There have been, I think last year's was similar as well, actually. It had just a long period of not much happening. So I think we've had a couple of years now where there's been a quieter period throughout the race. But we did get a little bit of action and a little bit of things to talk about, which obviously we will delve into as we review the Canadian Grand Prix. But first, we are Everything F1. You can find us on all our social platforms. We're on Facebook, X, Insta, TikTok, YouTube, all of those. And you can find us at the handle at Join EF1 on most of those, apart from TikTok, where you'll find us at EF1 Official. You can also find us on our website, www.everythingf1.com, where we will update you on news articles on a daily basis from around the motorsport world and obviously focused a little bit on Formula One more than the others. So, yeah, head over there, add us to your favourites, go and read our news articles whenever you get a chance. We'd also love it if you'd hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast streaming service, whether that be Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, even here on YouTube. If you could hit the subscribe button, that would be absolutely fantastic. We're giving away on YouTube for our YouTube followers. When we hit 500 subscribers, we're going to give away a Lego Speed Champion set to a worthy winner, a lucky fan. So all you have to do is click the like button, click the follow button, and make sure you do so, and we'll give that away as soon as we hit 500. And we're going to do it again, actually, when we get to 1,000 too. Okay, so enough about that anyway. Let's talk about the Canadian Grand Prix. Now, Coops, we can't go too far into the podcast without discussing George Russell. George Russell obviously won the race. He had an absolutely fantastic performance all weekend. He qualified first, best place to plant his car on pole, and then really just dominated the weekend. Really controlled it from the front. Were you super impressed, like I was, about George Russell this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it was decent. It was a surprise. I don't think any of us had their predictions with
No.
Russell there or thereabouts. Actually saying that, somebody did. Uh, but yeah,
Wasn't it Sean said something about George? He'd get a podium,
uh,
I think he said.
second, he had them down as
Ah,
second. Uh,
mm.
we won't talk about who he said was going to be first. Uh, so, but yeah, it was good. It was nice to see them up there at the front. Like you say, he controlled it pretty much all weekend. Pretty much, he was the man to beat, surprisingly enough, throughout most of
Mm.
the session. And even though it was really hot, the Mercedes worked. And even Toto
Yeah,
Wolff
strange.
didn't quite know how that happened.
Yeah, it's strange. Is that them? Well, I know we've said this several times throughout the last few years now. Is that Mercedes finally getting on top of their car and knowing how to actually set the car up so it works in the window for each track, or is it just a one-off? And we can expect to see them maybe a step or so down going forward into the other races.
Well, until they can figure out exactly why or how the car was as good as it was,
Mm,
I mean, it can't be like a step forward or they figure that out because unless Toto's just having a bit of fun and saying, yes, it's hot and we don't normally work well in the hot or we didn't expect it as plain as like a good one,
mm,
then, other than that, I mean, they're not going to be at the front chasing the McLarens down for the rest of the season, but they'll be
mm.
back to where they are, there or thereabouts. George will be largely anonymous, and then you'll look and he'll be third. Uh, that's kind of how it seems to be for George at the minute, and Antonelli's just slowly but surely doing what Antonelli's doing, just solidly getting points and going the right way.
Yeah, let's talk about his Mercedes teammate. Obviously, they were the winning constructors this weekend, so we may as well talk about his teammate. Antonelli's first podium. So all round, a really good weekend for the Mercedes team. Antonelli got a podium at how old is he now? 18.
Yep.
Um, uh, what a fantastic result and a fantastic performance all week. He overtook. I'm going to say, who did he
Uh,
overtake off the line?
Piastri.
Piastri. He overtook past Piastri off the line and kept him behind,
Yep.
and just had a fantastic performance.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you couldn't ask for much more. Got round Piastri. Piastri couldn't quite. They had a bit of pace on them, but not enough to really do anything with it.
Mm,
To like chase them down. And Antonelli just, was solid enough, done exactly what he needed to do. I think he's the third youngest podium
yeah.
in Formula One or something around about that. A pretty elite club, anyway. And
Yeah, and it's a sign of things to come. I think he's got a win under his, well, a win in within grasp. I think as long as that car performs the same as it has this weekend, I don't see any reason why, if the you know if the opportunity allows, that he would absolutely grab it with both hands and take that top step. I think it's well within his grasp, even at this point in his career. He just seems very consistent, very good. We have had a couple of mistakes, obviously, over the past few races, but not massive mistakes, really. Nothing to kind of go, oh, he shouldn't be in F1.
no, no, we're not talking Mick Schumacher levels of competence.
Mm,
He's good. And he's learning. You can see the progression. That's I think the biggest positive with it all. You can see the progression. You can see where he's going. Uh, and yeah, he probably will get something, whether it be a win or a second place or it'll be close to a win. But
yeah,
the Mercedes is the car that's in that weird position of it's fast enough to stay away from kind of the midfield battles, but not quite enough to take it consistently to the front runner, which is Max Verstappen or the McLaren. But
yeah.
they're close enough that if something were to happen, like Canada, then they're going to pick up a bundle of points or a win or two. I don't think we're going to even have. I think Mercedes are probably going to get about 3 wins, maybe four, throughout the rest of the season at some point.
Well, and this is their first one of the season, so yeah, a brilliant performance by both. Absolutely fantastic for their constructors' points in their constructors' challenge in the championship as well. But yeah, congratulations to the team and congratulations to George and, of course, Antonelli. Moving down to second place, we had the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. He had a bit of action, trying to obviously get in front of George and also keeping the McLarens behind, and keeping Antonelli behind. But it's a tale of two halves, as it always is with the Red Bull team. You've got Max Verstappen completely outdriving the car, and then Yuki Tsunoda down towards the rear. What can you say about Red Bull and Max Verstappen?
It's just Red Bull and Max Verstappen. They've not really changed much,
Hmm.
Max is doing Max things, Red Bull do Red Bull things, and Christian Horner just does what he does. Uh, I mean, it is a very binary team, Sonoda
Mm.
struggles with the car. Getting a wee
Yeah,
bit,
he was
he's getting there
12th.
or
I was
there.
just looking at the list. Looking at the list, he was 12th. So he obviously didn't get a point, Yuki Tsunoda, but he was exactly
No.
10 places behind his teammate.
And he got a 10 place grid penalty, I think it was, wasn't it, for the red flag
That's true.
situation. So,
Yeah.
he could have been up there or thereabouts. And, Red Bull are in that position which we knew was going to come where nobody could really drive the car but Max because Max has got a very specific way he likes to drive the car and the talent that he has to be able to control it.
Mm.
Uh, there's not many drivers out there that would be able to kind of, get within a couple of tenths of Max in the same machinery just because of the way it's designed. And, so Yuki is going to do what Yuki does and just keep going, no pressure. Just if he gets punted back out, I mean, of all people, he shouldn't be surprised because we are.
Mhm.
So, and if he goes on to the end of the season and then they say thank you very much, then that is what it is. It's Formula One. You speak to Fernando Alonso. If he'd made the right decisions or things went the right way, he could have been a multiple world champion rather than just two.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so it is how it works. And I'm sure Max will probably be right there, right to the end of the season, to try and steal the odd win here or there and just stir things up. I don't think Max is going to win the championship. I think, but he's going to be there just to cause them a bit of a headache and nick a
Be
few
a
points
thorn
off
in their
a.
side.
He's going to nick points off of both sides of McLaren, which will keep that championship battle between them two alive till later on in the season.
Well, we'll have to talk about the McLaren team then, because obviously they did come second and DNF. No, not second. Sorry, they did come fourth and a DNF, which are they're the next team to come to in the final standings of the Canadian Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri fourth. Lando Norris DNF, and that's because they crashed into each other. Everything that the team has been telling them not to do, and it happened. And fortunately for the team, it wasn't a big hoo-ha. There wasn't you did it. No, it was your fault. I didn't do it. I was, Lando held his hands up and he said, you know, it was stupid. It was the wrong thing to do. I made the mistake. So they haven't got, I guess, the kind of the managing of the two egos that they've got to do. They really have just, got to say, well, you've done it now. Put your head down and don't do it again. But Lando Norris completely beating himself up, and rightly so. There was no space down by that wall. Obviously, reminiscent of the 2011 Jenson Button Lewis Hamilton crash that happened in Canada too. Coops, have you got anything to add on that? Were you surprised to see Lando trying to stick it down that side at that point? Obviously, there'd
Uh,
been quite a battle between them, and they were going at each other, and it's really close in the championship. So it's really important that Lando does take some points off Oscar Piastri when he can. But were you surprised to see him try it there?
not really, because Lando's proven this year that more chances than not, his racecraft isn't going to be quite right. He's just going to make that slight wrong decision. Whether that be what happened when he was battling George in Bahrain, or whether it was what we saw in Canada. He just makes the ever so slight wrong decision at the wrong time,
Yeah.
and he's allowing Oscar Piastri to build himself the confidence. So Oscar's got a lot of confidence and is able to. And Oscar just doesn't really make mistakes. He kind of just gets on with it. And if there is ever so slight mistakes or if he does something wrong, you never really see it again. But that's not something
Mm.
you see from Lando. Lando's always making wee things. And how many times
I
even
think
this season?
I think it's a mental strength that Oscar Piastri really does have. He has really good mental strength, and I'm not belittling Lando at all, but it's something that maybe he needs to work on. Is his mental strength and his ability to kind of take things in his stride a bit, and rather than beat himself up so much. He has done damage to his championship chances. He's now 22 points adrift from Oscar Piastri. Now, we are only just over a third way into the championship, so I don't think that can completely rule out Lando Norris. All you need is a couple of, semi poor results from Oscar, and he's back in the fight. In fact, I don't think the fight is over for Max Verstappen or George Russell. Really, I think there is an outside possibility that they could come good towards the end of the season, but it's going to be an uphill battle from now on for Lando.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an uphill battle for everybody but Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri's proven at the minute that he's pretty much unflappable.
Mm,
Uh, he's not intimidated by Max Verstappen. He really doesn't care who's there. He'll race whoever it is. And that's the biggest thing that's the worry for everyone, including Lando, because Lando is consistently making a mistake, whether it be free practice, whether it be qualifying, whether it be just something during the race.
mm,
And there's always something. It's every other time we have a race weekend. Yeah, I made a wee mistake there, and I shouldn't have qualified seventh, but my first sector I made this mistake, and then the race there, like the car had hardly stopped, and he was like, "Yeah, my fault." Yeah, okay, right, come on.
mm.
I mean, really, I mean, it's Canada. Where was the car going to go? Why did you go there? Uh, and
Especially
and
when there
all,
was so much space on the other side. That you had, two cars widths on the other side that you could try to
you had
kind of
another
draft him through the
lap.
middle. Yeah,
You had another couple of laps. Just take your time and do it again at the hairpin.
don't
Try
be
and
so
outdrag
desperate
him.
for it.
Yeah, try and outdrag him because in the second time round, if you time it right, you're going to have DRS. When
Mm,
both of them had DRS like that when in the straight before they had their contact. And again, that's the issue. We all seen in Bahrain, it's like, why are you going where you're going? Because if George Russell puts you on the outside, you're done. And where did
mm,
he go? He went to the outside. And we're not even Formula One drivers. We could see what you to do with it. You just get a good exit coming out of that turn one, two kind of turn one, two corners onto that kind of straight where Grosjean had his accident. And
mm,
and you out drag him into that corner at the top of the circuit. Get yourself in, dive down the inside, push him wide, boom, there you go. And he didn't. He done exactly what George wanted him to do. George sold him a kipper, and then that was it.
mm,
We'd lost his half a tenth or whatever, lost the gap. And again, it's the same thing. Why go left in a technically a straight that's leaving veering to the right? Go right when the road goes slightly to the opposite way. Uh, he went left, but he should have went right. Is what I'm trying to say.
mm. Yeah.
Especially when the road and the circuit is kind of veering off the right hand
And he was
side.
going onto the grass. I think he dipped a tyre onto the grass even before he'd clipped the back of Piastri's car. So he must have known there was no space for that car. I think it was one
It
of
was
those
impatience
brain
and it
fart
was
moments.
yeah impatience and impulsive, and it's because he knows that Piastri's a very tough but fair competitor, and he's
Mm,
also very consistent, unbelievably consistent. And Lando isn't, and that's the problem. That's where you're
mm,
going to get an issue. So, and I think that, and then you add that all together, and they're in the same machinery. Then there's pressure. You're making the decision that's wrong. Whereas Oscar at the moment is making all the right decisions at the right time and is just getting on with what he needs to do. He's not getting bothered by outside noise. He's not getting flustered. He's not coming into the pen and being like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I made another mistake." He's just,
yeah.
yeah, I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing. I'm not bothered. Even in the conversations about the contact, very nonplussed, very chilled out, very monotone about it all. No
Yeah.
emotion.
It would have been entirely different if Lando had taken him out. McLaren would have been annoyed because they would have obviously had a pointless weekend. Um, as it stands, they're very, very far ahead in the Constructors' Championship. They're currently 374 points to the nearest, which is Mercedes now in second place at 199 points. A really good weekend for Mercedes has put them into second above Ferrari. Ferrari will be scrambling as much as they can to try and get that position back in the next race. But, as I say, McLaren weren't too upset at the end of it because at the end of the day, at least one driver won and took some points home to, again, further help and progress their championship in the constructors this year. Um, I've just mentioned Ferrari. We may as well discuss it. Ferrari doing Ferrari things, and also if you're a fan of groundhogs, Lewis Hamilton, well, well, he capped one, didn't he, this weekend in Canada? He took out a groundhog in Canada. What a shame! It's a shame for the animal, obviously, and it damaged his car and really kind of ruined his chances. He was gaining a bit of speed on the on his team on his teammates and on his opponents until that point, but then the car just didn't have the same performance, albeit what performance that Ferrari's had. Coops, what are your thoughts on Ferrari this weekend? Leclerc and of course Lewis Hamilton.
I mean, at the moment, it's Ferrari doing Ferrari thing.
Mm,
They're just consistently Ferrari, really. And, you know, Lewis hitting the groundhog, and he had a decent car under him for the race. It seemed like it was going all right, okay. It was steady. If they kind of got things right when it came to pit stops and got timed it right, they could have got themselves some decent points. But he
mm,
lost about 20 points worth of downforce, which I think Martin Brundle said in the Sky broadcast is about 5 tenths. And he was
mm.
consistently that behind the front. And he said he didn't know in the media pen when they said he hit groundhog. He went, "Well, that's devastating." Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's just a continuation of the story that is Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari. It's just becoming slightly more underwhelming, but each weekend he's just not getting it hooked up. The car's not working the way they want it. Even for Charles, it's not quite working the way they want it, but he's able to kind of handle it a bit better. So yeah,
Mm.
there's not much more you can say about Ferrari in all honesty when it comes to how they're going. They need to step it up, and there's a big upgrade coming to Silverstone. And I've already said that this upgrade will come and Lewis Hamilton will win at Silverstone because that's Lewis Hamilton's way. Uh, so yeah,
I hope so.
what
I'm
can you
going.
say? Are you going? I'm not.
Aye, aye. But yeah, Ferrari need to do something. They either need to shift focus on next year's car, or you know, just deal with this year and try and upgrade. Like you say, it'd be nice to see a decent upgrade package at Silverstone. But what they do really need to focus on is giving both drivers a really decent car that can perform next year. I think in the championship, it's coming to the point where they can probably just manage the rest of this year.
Hmm.
I don't think they're in any of the championship fights. Second place would be nice, obviously in the constructors, but I don't think drivers championships. They're just too far away. So they should just really work on building that relationship with Lewis Hamilton, I guess, and getting pally pally and working together right before mounting a real genuine attack next year. But how many times has Ferrari said that over the last? What was that? When was our last championship? 2007, wasn't it, with Kimi Raikkonen?
Yeah, I think so.
So we're coming up to 20 years. It's not. It'll be 19 years next year without a championship. So they really will be looking for something to put on the scorecards with Lewis Hamilton next year, or Charles Leclerc, obviously. Um, and they've got contracts coming up for renewal as well. In terms of Leclerc has got a contract renewal at the end of the year, hasn't he? Is it or is it at the end of
Uh,
2026?
I can't remember. It must be soon. I mean, he put in he got an extended contract a couple of years ago, and I haven't seen anything where he got it extended. So
Mm.
it must be
But
something coming soon.
he's obviously a Ferrari boy through and through. He probably bleeds Ferrari blood, but
Hmm.
it's only going to take too much of this disorganization as, oh, next year we're going to have the best car. Next year we're going to do this. Oh,
Hmm.
well, actually, yeah, we made a mistake. It'll be next year. Oh, no, actually, next year. Actually, next year. Actually, and you can only go around in that circle too many times before you get heartbroken and want to actually do something with your own career. So there are obviously worries about Charles Leclerc and his contract talks. But I have every faith that they'll pin him down for another contract too in the future, as long as they can try and give him a good car for next year as well. Moving on to any other strong performances that you saw over the weekend. Nico Hulkenberg. Let's go to Nico Hulkenberg. He had another very strong week. That's 2 weekends in a row where he's performed, quite well. Where did he get? He got Nico Rosberg eight. Nico Hulkenberg. Rosberg. Nico Hulkenberg was eighth in the race. So while it's not, second, third, fourth for a kick Sauber, it's a really positive step forward after a couple of upgrades and a really positive outlook for the Audi team next year.
Yeah, they're kind of starting to get their ducks back in the row that they should be in the first place. 2 points
Mm.
finishes in a row, pretty solid. And that's kind of all you're looking for Hulk, just to get in there, get some points, get them off the bottom of the constructors,
He looks
ready
like
for
he's
next
enjoying
season.
himself a bit more as well, doesn't he?
He is.
You know, you see him in the paddock, and you see his demeanour. Don't get me wrong, he's never miserable. He's not one of these miserable drivers. But I don't know, there seemed to be a bit of a spring in his step every time he was on camera over the weekend. So I think he's feeling the positivity from the team.
Yeah. I think Nico's been around the block enough in Formula One to know, especially with Sauber and the situation they're in just now,
Mm,
transitioning to Audi, trying to get things, sorted from before. That,
mm,
you know, what else is there to do but go out and enjoy it? Because you're either going to enjoy it or you're going to be fucking miserable, especially in that car. So,
yeah.
you know, it's he's doing exactly what he needs to do. He's enjoying it. So, let him enjoy it, and I'm sure he will. And it's not going to be the last time we're going to see Hulkenberg in the top 10. I don't think.
No, absolutely not on that performance and not on that car's ability at the moment. It seems to be doing fairly well. Gabriel Bortoleto, his teammate, obviously didn't score any points. He was down in 14th. Obviously, just a bit of inexperience from him, but he is performing well and he's doing a good job. Um, it's just that little bit of extra kind of experience that and kind of maturity in Nico Hulkenberg's head that is obviously taking him to where he is. But another person that I want to mention, because they got the first points of the season, was Fernando Alonso in the Aston
Ooh.
Martin. Now, his teammate Lance Stroll in his home race didn't perform, and he had a shocker of a weekend. I don't think I've ever seen Lance perform at the Canadian Grand Prix very well at all, and he continued that kind of run of bad form at a home Grand Prix. But Fernando Alonso has finally broken his duck of 2025, and he's got 6 points on the board because he came in seventh. Anything to kind of mention about Fernando? Were you worried for him? Were you worried that his best days were behind him? Well, they obviously are behind him, but that he'd forgotten how to drive a car, or do you think it was just circumstance with the year
I
so
think,
far?
I think it was circumstance. I think he got punted a couple of times. I think there's mechanical issues.
Mm,
I don't think there's many. Is there one time? I think Australia was his fault. I think he lost the car, if I remember right, uh, and
yeah,
binned it.
maybe.
Uh, Other than that, from what I can remember in my old head, that it's either been Liam Lawson punting him into a wall or some sort of mechanical issue.
Just
Uh,
been really unlucky.
but yeah, the car got some upgrades, looked pretty solid in the last race. Didn't quite get the points, but this time round got himself in the points. Lance is just being Lance at the minute. It's weird. I don't think he's either still in pain from his wrist issues or he really isn't enjoying it and he's kind of stuck because his dad owns the team and he doesn't really know how
Just,
to kind of bring it to him or something,
like,
maybe. I
Dad,
don't know.
I don't want to drive next year.
You're
You're
driving,
driving.
son. Get in that car. How much money have
I've-
you spent on you?
Has he got a Scottish accent?
Well, I can't exactly do a Canadian one, can I?
You can try.
No.
I think it'd be quite amusing. But yeah, more power to Alonso. He had a good race or good luck instead of bad luck this year to score his first points of the year. Are there any other teams or drivers that you want to discuss that we haven't touched upon?
Uh, I mean, we could talk
Uh,
about the Alpine team.
yeah.
So I don't know how they've managed this, but another of the management team has left. It was announced about 54 minutes, 55 minutes into the Grand Prix Canada yesterday, or Sunday. That Luca De Meo, the guy who is the kind of mastermind behind the Alpine kind of Formula One and turning it into Alpine, and he's decided to leave to take up an opportunity outside of the motorsport industry. So not
Mm.
only has Alpine messed up their team that much and burned through that many people, some of the people that leave just don't want to see a car again. So, I mean, how bad is it going on that this is happening? But they don't even have a bona fide team principal at the minute. they've got a spokesperson with Flavio doing Flavio in the background.
Yeah.
Uh, but the graveyard that of past employees within with connected to Alpine is looking decidedly full at the minute, and it's
Do you think they released it like 54 minutes before the race to try and cover it up a little bit so it wasn't
no,
big news?
it
So
was announced while the race was going on.
ah,
I
mm.
I was looking through my Twitter while watching the race just to see what was happening, what people were thinking, and I'm like, oh, all right. At least that's when I seen it.
I just
Whether that was when it was
yeah.
released, I'm not sure, but it was very close to the race, if not while the race was going on.
It
Uh,
just feels a bit like a cover up to me, a bit of a conspiracy theorist idea that they were just trying to kind of
I think Mick is
get it
just
out under the
scuttered.
radar.
I think he's just scuttered. I think he just wants to go. I don't think Alpine
Mm,
care. Like they're still driving around after everybody that's been sacked or let go. But why would they care about when they released that one? Like,
mm.
come on, it's like they would be the only team in the grid that would sack their driver while he's in a Grand Prix, like, and announce it while the guy's driving. Like, with the end of the race, just keep going, turn left at the end, through the barriers. That's you. See you later.
Drop yourself off at the airport and
Aye.
yeah.
He pulls
Well,
into Park Fermi and his bags are sitting waiting for him. Here, lad. Here's your Uber. See you later.
in the race itself, they were 13th and 15th, with Colapinto being the one that actually outscored, well, not outscored, uh, finished before Pierre Gasly. So justified. Um, I think Jack Doohan didn't do that once throughout the whole time that he was in the car. Still no points, so it's nothing massive to write home about. But he did, come home in front of his more experienced Pierre Gasly teammate.
Well, I mean, at the
Um,
minute, celebrating that is like celebrating the fact that your poo's just a wee bit more rounder than your partner. It's just like really, it's just not really a position to be celebrating. Like,
mm.
mine's just a better shade than yours. Woo! Like, nice, good. Yeah, we'll jog on, leave, get out. Uh, yeah, I don't
Could you
know.
have not chosen a more family-friendly way to describe the two?
Well, I didn't swear, so let's just
No, you
stick
didn't.
with that.
You didn't.
I
Yeah, there
went
was
with
no
the
swearing.
poo. I could have went with the ultimate Scottish word that is jobby. Uh,
Jobby. Yeah,
jobby.
definitely.
The very Scottish
Jobby.
word.
Let's talk about a team that actually, on the whole, have been scoring quite well, putting cars in the points and doing fairly decent for who they are, but had a bit of a nightmare this weekend with Alexander Albon and Carlos Sainz. The Williams team, they just had a few niggles, just a few problems. Things just didn't seem to go their way.
Yeah, it seems to be a consistent thing just now. Couple of races. Spain was horrid. I think was that the one where Alex Albon really didn't like his front wing, destroyed it just about every
Mm.
opportunity he had.
Twice,
Uh,
yeah, twice in the race, yeah.
yeah, and then they were about to retire the car and realised they've got a 10-second penalty to send him back out again. Like, don't get out, quick, go back out. Uh,
Yeah,
uh, and then this weekend just didn't click. He wasn't overly impressed with his pit wall. Was Albon shouting at them saying, "Why
no.
do you just not listen to me?" And they're like, "Yeah, because we
Mm.
have more data than you." Just obviously in the debrief they might be like, Alex, have a sit down. I've got a PowerPoint presentation here. We're going to have a conversation. Uh, yeah, it
He's
didn't
not
go well.
managed by George Russell, is he?
Well, George Russell spent 3 years at Williams. Maybe the PowerPoint presentations kind of became part of the culture.
Yeah.
Uh, maybe he had one prepared. And these are the reasons in my Venn diagram of why you do not listen to me and why I think this. Uh, you know. Yeah, it's a bit of a one of those mid-season, early season, whatever kind of the season's that long. I don't know what part we're in. But it's this part of the season where they're just having a bit of a slump and things just aren't quite working. Carlos isn't quite setting the world alight in Williams at the minute
Mm.
either. Uh, Not that Andy
But
really cares. It's Carlos Sainz and Williams. He'll get somewhere at some
yeah,
point, I'd imagine.
I did read a good interview actually, where he was kind of defending Hamilton, which is, a strange position to be in as the person that took your seat, and kind of defending himself in a way. He said, every time I've moved teams, it's taken me half a season to get up to scratch, and people are kind of having a go at Lewis Hamilton. When I said it historically, people just brushed it off and said, no, 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 no. But actually, now it's happening to, a seven-time world champion. People are noticing and kind of taking note that, hang on, it obviously is quite difficult to just chop and change from a team. I just felt that was quite whether it was a nice thing aimed towards Hamilton or kind of like he was saying, look, it's not just me, it just takes that time to kind of bed yourself into a team and get used to the car, used to the people and mechanics behind the radio, strategies, X, Y, and Z, all these different things that you've got to get used to when you change teams. And historically, he has taken his time. So he's like, now it's happening to Lewis Hamilton. People are taking notice, and they just kind of brushed it off whenever he made that excuse historically. And obviously, he's going through that same bedding in process at Williams as Lewis Hamilton in Ferrari. And I think it was a nice. He had every opportunity to say, yeah, you see, I would have been better than Lewis in that situation. I was in the team and I could have won races by now, blah 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 blah. But he didn't. He didn't stick the boot in. He gave a very mature, very level-headed response.
He did, and he doesn't really have much of a choice because, you know, you come out there and start slating Lewis Hamilton. He's not won a championship, let alone seven. He's now, I don't think he's really been in the hunt to win them. So, you're kind of in that situation where you're setting a lot of bad PR if you're going to start slating that. And a lot of people will just go down that route of, well, it looks like Ferrari have made the right decision with an attitude like that. So, it's
Mm,
these drivers are all very well trained in the world of media, generally speaking, unless you're Max Verstappen, who really just doesn't care. Uh, you know, they kind of been warned like what to say, and you even seen it at the Canada. Like you had the woman from McLaren just chatting to Oscar before he was going, because they know what the questions are going to be more or less. They're going to talk about the contact. So Oscar, just to let you know, this is what we want
mm,
you to say. This is what we're not going to tell you what to say, but we're going to tell you what you can't say, right?
mm.
So and also blah blah blah. So it's very much a machine. And I'm sure Carlos probably he's right. Like no team, no drivers coming into a brand new team after moving at the end of the season and really just getting in and getting on with it. Like Lewis Hamilton didn't even do that when he started his career. He was babysat and looked after by McLaren way before he got anywhere near a Formula One car. So obviously he was around the team, knew the systems, knew how it worked. Ron Dennis
Yeah.
probably made the decision way before it was announced that he was getting put in the car. So you're talking sim work, as much as the sims back then might not be as good as they are at this day. So there was a lot going on.
Yeah, but they would
Antonelli,
the cars were so different as well then.
yeah, I mean Antonelli as well was given an unbelievable program to get him ready for where he's for coming in. Probably was already doing it by the time they announced he was getting the seat. So when you move in the winter and you move to a brand new team, you don't have a lot of time to acclimatise yourself. The season's that long, starts really early, practices in February, you start your first race, testing, sorry, is in February, you start your first race in March, and that's you right the way through now till, late November, early December in some cases. So, it's going to take time. And you don't have the times where we used to watch it where they had testing schedules where it was like a whole Grand Prix team would go to a track and spend all day just hammering it out,
They used
figuring
to
it
spend
out,
weeks
getting the
there.
process.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
they had a whole squad. I was listening to a couple of podcasts about the history, and it was like an actual team, like a
Mm.
team that a team would take to a Formula One track for a Grand Prix
With a
event.
reserve driver, yeah,
And
and they
it's
do it
basically
throughout
the
the whole
full team.
season.
And they just go to
Yeah,
different tracks and spend days just triming it out. And if a driver was getting is new into a team, that driver would do the Grand Prix weekend, jump in with the testing team, head to another track, spend the whole weekend just triming it out, getting the system, understanding how they work, working the kinks out, getting your relationship with your engineers, and just so by the time you're two or three races in, you've got more miles and more time with your team that any driver in this day and age can do now. So
yeah, absolutely.
it's this acclimatization, this relationship building, all of this stuff happens in the public eye, in front of everybody. And the problem you have is because it's, you know, Carlos Sainz and because it's Lewis Hamilton, everyone's making up an opinion. your Lewis Hamilton fans are like, you need to get rid of that engineer because that's ridiculous, and then you've got the Max Verstappen fans and the Lewis haters that are like, oh look at that, he's washed up, he can't do it, and they should have just kept Carlos. Look how bad Lewis is, and Carlos is like, I'm not exactly doing very well here. Like, Charles, man, don't leave me out of this. So. It's just how it is in this day and age. Everything's seen. A lot of the things we never saw or heard about until we read like an article 6 months after it happened. Oh, by the way, so Nigel Mansell had a big scrap with his engineers at a testing track. Did he? You know, whereas we're watching it, live practically
Yeah,
with the way social
it's
media is these
happening
days.
in front of our eyes. But I don't think there are any other people we need to speak about anyway. I think we've touched on most of the important people for the Grand Prix itself. Are there any news stories that you want to discuss that's dropped since the weekend? Obviously, you just mentioned the Alpine situation, just like people jumping off the sinking ship at this point in time. Um, but I don't think there's any other news has been dropped. Oh, there was. What was it? Um, Canada. Canada's been confirmed until 2035.
Oh, I mean, that's a
So that
given. And
no, it was
I
a
mean,
given that it
no,
was going to be on there, but they've confirmed it. It's going to be on the calendar to till at least 2035. So the race weekend that we've just had is going to be,
you take the
is going to
Canadian
continue into
You
the.
take the Canadian Grand Prix off the off the calendar. You're going to get the most.
We riot.
Well, you'll mildly inconvenience and annoy the Canadians, which is quite a good job. It's the
What are you going on
Canadians, eh?
about?
Uh, they're going to start hitting you with protein. So yeah, it's a good track. It's very much got a history in it. I still remember watching Alex Wurz go to tumble in the first corner when he decided to kamikaze it down the inside. Uh,
Hmm.
that was when that first corner had gravel in it. Kids, Google what that is. Uh, so you know,
Something they need more of.
there's been a lot. The Grand Prix weekend where about 14 ex-Formula One world champions decided to crash into the same wall. God knows why. Uh, wasn't quite as many as 14, but it felt like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I get you. I get you.
so good track.
It's a good circuit to have on the
We
calendar.
touched on it in the preview. Sean lived in Canada for a couple of years. Montreal just absorbed Formula One for like the whole week. It's a thing. Things are planned. It's not just like, oh yeah, it's happening tomorrow. Just go down there to the left. It's like all week, like Grand Prix is coming. Come and
Hmm.
do this. We've got this event. We've got that on. We've got this on. And the last thing is the race. There's just so much, and yeah, yeah, Formula One would be so brain dead and just not really know how to read the room if they decided not to keep Canada. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
So
an
it
older
was a
track,
good
and
decision.
yeah, older track in the grand scheme of it, but it's definitely not out of date. They've done some upgrades to it just recently. I think some of the paddock stuff and some things were changed and just redressed and just given a bit of a spruce up. Uh,
And what's annoyed a few people with the calendar next year, but it might mean there's slightly different and more changeable weather. But they've obviously tied it with the Indy 500, which obviously usually gets tied with the Monaco Grand Prix. Who was it that said it was the? Who was it that said it was the Indy 500 winner this year? Pillow. He
oh
said
yeah,
you've ruined motorsport Christmas by putting the Canadian Grand Prix on the same day as the Indy 500 because obviously the time difference is not going to be the same. So therefore, you can't get up and watch Monaco and then kind of in the afternoon watch the Indy 500 afterwards. You're going to have to choose between which race you watch, unless they do something extreme with the timings to make sure you can, still do that. But it's an interesting point, valid point. I think Monaco and Indy 500, but they've been tied together for quite a while now. So to move that, but obviously it was all down to the logistics and getting the calendar more green, like we discussed last week, when we discussed the confirmation of the 2026 calendar.
like Formula One fans just need to get a break. Indy 500 and Formula One are two different series. They don't need to speak to each other. They like it's just like what do you want? What do you want them to do? Or just because
Mm.
Monaco's always been on the same weekend as Indy 500 that it has to always stay there? Like, really? But then you
There'll
moan
be
when
a
the calendars are a wee bit inconvenient. Like, why are you going from that end of the world to go to Canada to go back? Well, because you guys moaned and wanted it the same weekend as the Monaco Grand Prix. Are you
mm.
just moaning because you're going to have to watch Monaco and just spend the whole day knowing you've just watched the Monaco Grand Prix, which is really boring, instead of jumping over to Indy to go like, ah, look how good it is. Like,
Yeah, maybe they're concerned that the Canadian Grand Prix will show up the Indy 500, and they're like, well, actually, that's a potential for an exciting race to actually lead into the Indy 500, and they might judge us against that one rather than the parade that they usually judge us against in the streets of Monaco.
no, most people judge Monaco for what it is, and it's pants. Look, it is what it is. Like, it's the 20th whatever century. I was watching Star Trek, nearly said 24th century. We're not quite there yet, but it is what it is. You record one and watch it after. It's not the first time we've
Mm.
done it. Keep yourself off social media for a few hours, jump on and watch it. If you find out what happened in the social media, then you just go and watch it to see how we got there.
Yeah, and let's
That is
be
what it
honest,
is.
the Venn diagram is probably very small where it meets. In terms of Formula One fans, they're pretty dedicated Formula One fans only. Some of them don't even watch. A lot of the F1 fans don't even watch F2, F3, and they're the related series. So
Mhm.
an American series where they have this massive Indy 500 race. I'll admit it. I haven't watched the Indy 500 all my life. I've only watched it over the last 4 years. I think it's the fourth year that I've watched it this year. So I was one of those Formula One fans prior to this. I wasn't really interested, and I think that is unfortunately the majority of F1 fans. The small Venn diagram part of that, where the crossover is, where they watch both, will have to just record one and watch it a little bit later. It is
That's
what
it,
it is, like
exactly.
Coops
And do
says.
you know what? If we get a red flag, jump over, watch it for a wee bit, get a caution, jump back, watch it for a wee bit. Or have your telly watching one and have your tablet or some sort of streaming device with the other one. Keep an eye. Just watch
Mm.
both.
Split screen.
There's ways around it. It's not that big a deal. It's just
Mm.
people being people.
Yeah. Any other news, Coops, that you want to chat about? Did you spot anything that you wish to consult me about?
Well,
Did you want to
Rachel
speak about
Brooks
the?
from Sky Sports F1 has had to change her social medias because of the abuse she was getting. Like it was after Spain. So for anyone who
Yes.
doesn't know, Rachel Brooks is usually the media pen reporter. So
Yeah.
somebody bins it into a wall halfway through the Grand Prix, goes to media pen. It is usually Rachel standing there with the mic, giving it the questions, while the cars are going, zoo, zoo, zoo. She's still, I'm sorry to the team, I made a mistake. I don't know what she did to rile up the Neanderthals that run about Formula One Twitters and the other social medias, but she's literally basically said she's having to turn off her comments on social media,
Mm.
which in this day and
It's
age,
all over this. She put Verstappen on the spot, didn't she, in the Spanish Grand Prix after the Spanish Grand Prix, and everyone's kind of ripped into her because of that, which is a shame. Obviously, she's a reporter; she has to ask those questions, um, and people don't
well,
like
I
the fact that
mean,
she asked those questions, I guess.
so yeah, she basically said there, right, asked Verstappen whether his actions where he decided to purposefully drive into the side of George Russell in Spain takes the shine off
Mm.
his brilliance, referring to the Dutchman's outstanding move on Oscar Piastri at the start of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Verstappen responded, "Well, that's your opinion. We'll leave it there." It seems Ray Brooks was then abused and criticised for a line of questioning towards Verstappen. Let's just hold that and have a wee think about that comment because she's a fucking journalist. What did you
It's her
call
job
her?
to ask the difficult
Like, would
questions.
you call a journalist who doesn't ask questions a person? And
Yeah.
generally, either a bad journalist or unemployed. Hmm. So she did
Mm.
what she's supposed to do, and she does it very well. She's a very, very accomplished journalist, very good at what she does, and she's asking the questions because that's the job she's there to do. Every
Yeah.
journalist will ask questions. Is this the Max Verstappen Neanderthal fans that don't want to listen to anything and nothing happens? It's just this orange shite that comes out his ass all the time and he can't do nothing wrong? Or is it these people that don't like it because it's a female? Or is it both? But it's 2025. Get over it. If people are
Mm.
getting angry with a journalist for asking tough questions, go and look at a dictionary and read what the definition of a journalist is,
Journalist is, yeah.
and just move on. If you don't like what she says when she comes up, mute it. Don't go to social media and pester the woman for doing her
Mm.
job. I mean,
Don't do that to
really,
anybody, at the end of the
really,
day. Not
anybody really like.
just her, but
Do you go find your
there is no
GP
need.
that didn't, you're going to shout at a GP because they never gave you an appointment when you wanted it if you found them on Twitter? You're not going to do that. So why would you do it to a journalist? Uh,
Mm.
it's just in this day and age, people just need to get a grip of yourselves. As much as I have so much passion for Formula One, because why would I be sitting here if I didn't? Uh,
Mm.
I know it's a group of cars going round the track for 70 odd minutes. I know it's not that big a deal in the grand scheme of life. It's
Mm.
certainly not enough. And I mean, I love this. I'm a season ticket holder for Kilmarnock Football Club. I do not hold these two things in such a high regard that I have to go on Twitter to shout at people because
Mm.
the person was doing their job, or I'll have quite constructive debates, and I can and on Twitter and other social media, and when we do this.
Yeah, discuss it. Voice your opinion, but don't insult them. Don't threaten their lives. Don't, you know, try and contact different members of their family because you're so unhinged
Yeah, yeah,
because of something that they said.
do us all a favour
I
if you're
disagree with
doing
what you
that.
said, Rachel. I think you should have approached it this way. Blah 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 blah. Have a
uh,
conversation. Try and have a
And you know
discussion.
what? Or if
Don't
you didn't like
don't
it,
call them just names.
just ignore it. Just yeah.
Yeah.
These people that do this need to get out of their mother's basement, take the tinfoil hat off, maybe go and get some sun. Just go for a walk. Just
Get some
find some
vitamin
sort of
D.
yeah, get some vitamin D. Look at the sunflowers. Find something that puts a smile on your face. Just something nice. Just nice. Go and clap a kitten, like something. You know. But yeah,
Did you
it's
say kick a
just
kitten?
no. I said go and clap a kitten. Not kick
That's
a
a Scottish
kitten.
thing.
Hug a
That must
kitten.
be Scottish.
Kitten.
Hug a
Would you
kitten. Okay.
clap. Give a
Kitten.
kitten.
Hug.
Uh,
A clap would be like a slap, like a
oh,
Will Smith thing.
uh, uh,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
it's a dodgy language up there.
It's better
Anyway,
than
I think
yours,
that's pretty much all we need to
boss.
discuss. I am the boss. Anyway, that's all we need to discuss today on the Everything Everyone podcast. Thank you very much for joining me and Coops. Thank you, Coops, for coming along.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back next week where we discuss the Austrian Grand Prix and preview that one in preparation for the weekend. So make sure you tune in, get obviously your predictions ready and see, and you can drop those into the comments when we're doing our own predictions for the race weekend so we can kind of compare and see what each of us think. But until then,
Before you
we
go
have been
any
Everything
further,
F1.
before you go any further, we'll quickly go over the predictions because we've never done it, and you've just
Oh
reminded me.
no, I did terribly because I
Yes.
said Lando Norris.
So Sean, who's not here, predicted Piastri on pole. His top three was Lando, Russell, and Piastri. So he got one in the top three, but really poor.
And kind of a half
Myself,
tick for George there.
yeah, myself, pole, Charles Leclerc. Uh, I had Piastri, Leclerc, Norris. So eh, Piastri top three. No, he was fourth. Ah,
But he wasn't. He
okay.
was fourth. Yeah, so you're completely wrong.
I was wrong. Tiller, let's go. Super LTT. Norris pole, Norris first. Yeah. Piastri second, Lewis Hamilton in third. Well, that groundhog had something to say about that, didn't
Yeah.
he? Did he even see
I
it
was
coming?
scuppered by Bill Murray's friend.
Sean said it'll be a double Williams points. Nah, okay.
Wrong.
That was
But
his
Carlos Sainz
that
got a
was
point.
his wild card. Yeah. My wild card was Leclerc on pole, and Tiller decided that Max was going to get a race ban, which, by the way, he still could in Austria. Probably won't, but he still
Yes.
could.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, they wouldn't, the FIA wouldn't be able to leave without armed guard if they banned him during the Austrian Grand Prix. Can you imagine? Oh yeah, you made a mistake, Max. That's an extra point on your license, and you won't be driving in the next
I think if that was
race.
to come to the steward table, I think if that came to the steward's table, it would come up discussed after the race,
Yeah.
17 hours later when everyone finally goes home. and they're on the planes and their planes on airplane mode and stuff like that. Then they come out the plane and they're back
Yeah.
in, the Netherlands.
And
What?
even then, they'd send in an armored tank
Aye.
and
Back,
convoy just to make sure they could get out without getting hurt.
get back in the
But
plane.
those were our rubbish results for our predictions. As
Yeah,
you
we're
can
not
see,
getting
we only
close.
have
We're
a
actually
bit
getting
of
worse
fun.
since we started those
Yeah,
predictions, don't we?
we
It's
are.
bad. So bad.
Never mind. It's all a bit of fun. It's all a bit of fun. But you can join in if you do watch us live and get your predictions for the Austrian Grand Prix in the comments too. So once again, we are Everything F1. You can find us on our socials: Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter. No, X is Twitter. YouTube, all at the handle at JoinEF1, or on TikTok at EF1 Official. Please also make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube because you'll get entered into our competition where we're giving away a free Lego Speed Champion set once we get 500 followers. We'll also do it again at 1,000 followers too. Visit our website, slap it into your favourites, and of course, hit the subscribe button on your favourite podcast streaming service to get all of our latest podcasts in your earlobes as soon as they drop. Thank you very much to me. Thank you very much to Coops. Thank you very much to you for listening. We are Everything F1, and we'll speak to you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.